Welcome back to Fight Crypto. My name is Chase, level 1 CMT and full-time trader. Today we're going to look at Bitcoin and potential highs coming in the next couple of years, right? Looking at the Pico top. Where could it possibly be? Or where could it possibly not reach, right? We're going to look at all of that. We're going to look doing that based on yesterday's Chainlink video with the Fibonacci extension and retracement tools. So we're on a logarithmic scale. That is important to note. We're also on the BLX, right? You see this over here. What is BLX? It lets you see the whole history of Bitcoin, right? It goes back further. If you go just to Bitcoin, it's only going to go back, not this far, right? I think it goes back to like 2015, 2016 at the most. So if you want more history, your video looks a little bit different than mine. That's why. BLX and log scale, okay? So let's get right to it. One other important note is we have on what's called magnet mode, and you see that pop up, right? And I know you can't see my tools on the left-hand side. I've enhanced my screen so you get as much picture as possible, but magnet mode, right? There's what it does. So it makes it easier to identify tops and bottoms, and it goes right to it. So you get the exact precise number. So let's get right to it. So Fib retracement extension tool, and how you get each one is just if you want the retracement, you just go from the lows to the highs, right? From the swing lows to the swing highs. And if you want extension, you goes from the swing highs to the swing lows. That's simple, right? So let's start off. The first one, good old heydays of Bitcoin at 1 penny, back in 2010, right? So our peak from 1 penny to $30. Imagine that move, right? Don't we all wish? So the important note is we're going to keep this simple, right? Where roughly did these, the peaks and valleys form at what Fib extension or retracement? Okay, so here's the first one, right? Where did it fall to after the Pico top? Almost, we're about halfway, the closes, about halfway between the 236 and the 382, right? So remember that. So roughly right in there, right? Okay, so let's go to the next one. Let's go to the top. And then we'll do the opposite, right? But if you stay to the end of this, you're going to be pretty fascinated. I know I was. This is pretty interesting, right? So again, swing low, swing high, extension to the retrace. Where did our lows fall? Look at almost identical, right? Between the 236 and the 382, right here, right? And I'm only doing this because it's on magnet mode and it gets bluey, right? Whatever that means. That's from what was the movie from Matt Damon? I'll think of it in a minute. The Departed, right? Hopefully you haven't seen that movie. Okay, so again, about the same retrace, right? Swing high, swing low between the 382 and the 236, right? So this one, the next peak from 2014 to 2017, right? Our first time we tapped on 20K. Where did we fall to? Well, if you take this out, I know you can't see because of the numbers, and we could have shifted that, and in retrospective, probably should have. But where did this one fall? A little bit deeper into the retrace, right on the 382. So the first two is kind of right in the middle. The third one got a little bit deeper at the 382, hit right on it at, around 3,000 mark, okay? So let's fast forward again to the next Pico top where we just visited, right? And the swing low back in here. And where do we fall to this time, right? Because we have the data now, and we're assuming the lows are in. So let's zoom in here, right? Where do we fall to? This time it went even a little deeper. So you could argue that the clawdowns through the Fib retracement are getting deeper with each cycle, right? First two, one was right here. Second one's right there. Third was to the 382. This one, we went even between the 382 and the 0.5, right? So this one was kind of right in the middle of that, beyond the 382. This is the first one we went that far deep into the Fib retracement. So if we can, continue that pattern, and there's no guarantee that we do, if we do, we could extrapolate, perhaps we will in fact hit the 0.5 this time, or at least the 382 between one of these two, right? So we take the 3.8 to the 0.5, and we could say maybe the odds are our next retrace goes somewhere between those two, right? That's a pretty good odds because the previous ones seem to be right in that area. At least you could take the rough estimate of the 382 and get a, rough. You probably better be taking some DCA buys when we get back to that level, in 2026, 2027, somewhere around in there, okay? So how high could we go? Because we need to now know, right? If we go to our next top, which we don't have yet, right? We don't have crystal balls, just brass ones. We're just looking at what the potential could be, right? Where are we going to top, right? Is it going to be 200K? Is it going to be 100K? Well, let's just note this really quick, right? So let's say we top at 100K, right? I'm not saying we're going to do that, but if we do, where would that 382 to 0.5 be? So this looks to be roughly between 40 to 50K for our next drawdown in, say, 2027, right? Say 2026, 2027. Our next bottom would likely be somewhere between 50 to 40K based on all the previous cycles from Bitcoin's history going back to 2010. Okay? That's if we top at 100. What about 150 to keep it just, basic, simple? 150K? These numbers don't change that much, right? So now we're between 60, 62 to 48. Keep in mind that 382 is now at, right around this top. This could, in fact, turn to be support, especially if it's near this 382. So when we get down to there, right, I know we're years away from that, right? We haven't even really started this cycle to the upside, let alone go down to the downside, but we'll probably have to make this a couple more times between now and 2026 or 2027. But this is certainly eye-opening potentially. And once we look at the extensions on the previous cycles, it's pretty cool, right? So that's 150. What about 200K? What if we could possibly go to 200K? Well, then we're looking at, 55 to 75. It starts to get a big area there. Do I think we can go to 200K? Probably not likely, right? And we'll see why in just a moment. Okay, so that's that. So let's go now look at the fib extensions for all of these cycles. Maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't, right? So there's, again, all the history of Bitcoin on a log scale, and let's get through it, right? So let's do the extensions now. How high did we go, right? Let's see that. Okay, now let's really see it. Okay, tap. Okay, well, we're just gonna have to do it, right? Okay, so magnet mode is on. That's why it starts to go a little bit blowy, right? Matt Damon, The Departed, and there we go. Okay, here we go. All right, it's a little slow, but we're gonna get it. Okay, and we got to fix it. Now you go from the swing high to swing low, and you're like, well, why didn't you start at the beginning like before? Well, we didn't have a previous top, right? That was kind of the entry level. So this is the first section we can do with the extension. Okay, so where did we go? Did we go to the 1618? Well, initially we did, but then we pumped almost to the 2618, right? That's pretty impressive. We got this real true blow off top here, but we definitely hit the 1618 kind of right in between these two, right? Okay. So now let's go to the next one. We'll go from our swing high, right? And then we'll just drag them over, right? So we don't have to delete them every time, right? There we go, right? Quick and easy, right? Our next cycle went almost the same, right? Above the 1618, we got some hesitation there. And then almost to the 2618, right? A bit of a stretch, but not quite. So again, first two cycles between these two, almost halfway up. The 1618 and 2618, but definitely hitting the 1618, okay? So now let's fast forward again, right? And let's look at our next one, right? These are exact numbers, right? These are going right to these top and bottoms because we have magnet mode on, right? Remember that. Okay, so next cycle, the most current one, right? 2018 bottom, extension, where did it go? Right almost to the 1618, a little bit above it. So all previous cycles have gone above and met the 1618. However, what have we noticed? The pattern, they're getting more shallow, right? A little bit. So this one for sure, obviously. The first two, almost to the 2618, then about halfway 618, and now to the 1618. So if we can assume that, maybe the next cycle doesn't even make it to the 1618, right? If best case scenario, probably right on it, right? Worst case scenario, maybe a little bit below it, maybe to the one or halfway between these ones, right? So let's go ahead and look at that. Where would that take us? Well, let's go to our top and then go to our swing low because we're assuming the lows are in. And then there we go, right? So the 1618 here is 173,000 roughly, right? So that's what we're looking at. Best case scenario, based on the fibs. This is not my opinion, right? This is what the Fibonacci's are saying based on the previous cycles, as I'm just showing you the data. So if you disagree, then that's fine. If you have someone else that says something else, I'm up for data as long as you're willing to back it up with something. Don't just pull a rabbit out of the hat because you think so, or because the last cycle did X, right? We need a couple of at least data points, right? You can't just use one and say it's going to do that again, right? At least we have 3 data points from this on the extensions and the retraces, right? So you have something to hold on to there. So best case scenario, I would go 170, thereabouts for Bitcoin in this cycle. That's still pretty impressive from the lows, right? We're looking, if it did that, right, we'd be looking at 11x off the lows, 1,000%. Remember, 100% is 2x. Right? A lot of people get that wrong. They're like, oh, that's a 10x, 1,000%. No, it's 11x, mathematician. All right. So that would be 11x. That's pretty good, right? But still would be in line with the last cycle because our lows there to our highs was, 2,000%. So we do half of what we did last cycle and still get to 170,000 roughly, right? So it's still potentially possible. Diminishing returns are real. It's seemingly that, we scale less into the fib extension and more into the fib retracement. If you've caught on to that, right? That's seemingly what Bitcoin is doing. So we will have another data point come this next top. I would say if we peak anywhere short of this, then we have 4 data points and we could probably, predict a little bit more accurately the cycles ahead, right? Because if it's getting less into the extensions and more into the retracements, then this pattern will likely help us predict future markets, right? From market type, tops and bottoms. So having said that, 170,000, but we don't really have anything to go off of besides that, as far as data from the fibs, right? So if you have some more things you want to look at, I'm happy to hear them. But if we do that, right, if we peak there, right, anything I would say over 150, you're probably in your best interest to start securing profits or at least putting up some stop losses, because the tops never feel like the tops until it's too late, right? And how often, I mean, if this was your first cycle and you didn't live through 2017 or 2018, right, the tops never ever will feel like the exact top, right? It'll feel like the area, right? Just like maybe it felt like the area here, right? Or here, or here, or here, right? But looking at this data, hopefully this helps kind of shed some light on the subject. And if you've seen $500,000 Bitcoin predictions, $1 million Bitcoin predictions, based on what, right? Always question why that number. At least here, I've got some data to back it up with and why I'm saying that, right? Doesn't mean it has to come true at all or with a grain of salt or, anything like that. Just showing you some data that I found and throwing it out there to you. What do you think? Do you think that's too high, 170? Do you think it's too low, right? Last cycle, we got right to the 1618, but that was, again, less than the previous cycles. So there's no reason to say we're going to go above that. Right? That would be the anomaly. And in fact, I would think a little bit less than that. I would say we'll be lucky to even hit, 150K. I would think a little bit less than that even. So 100K, maybe we get a blow off top. We'll have to see how it goes, right? We're doing updates all the time. Join the Telegram group if you haven't already. If you want daily updates and more help navigating the cycle, join Patreon. You get daily updates there. A lot more content, a lot more one-on-one interaction from me. Ability to request, that is through Patreon. Again, you get a private Telegram group, and there's a good group of people in there already that have been with me for a long time. So try that out if you want. Join me on Twitter for kind of the latest news and stuff like that. Occasional updates. Let's get to the good parts. Car of the day. And we're actually going to do brand of the day for the first time. Maybe we'll start doing that every now and again. But why am I doing that? Is just because I have a bunch of Ferrari pictures. These are, again, what I took personally from Concours d'Elegance. I looked it up. It's back in 2015. So 2015, this is like probably the best group of cars I've ever seen in one place. This is a LaFerrari, by the way, which is, you're lucky to pick one up under 4 million at this point. And followed over here, you're like, what the hell is that? That looks like a Ferrari. Yep, Ferrari. That's a 488 Aperta, which is, again, about 500 grand. Nothing to sneeze at. And then back over here, you have a, you got any guesses? I'd be impressed if you get this one. If you said McLaren, okay, you get one kudo point. But do you want 5 kudos points or 78 gold stars? What's the model? I'd be impressed if you get it. It's a McLaren 650S. Kudos to you if you got that. And 78 gold stars. See me after class. All right. How about the next photo? Do we have any more Ferraris? You said, look at this one. Is this indoor for an auction? They were releasing this. I don't think it's sold. I don't think the reserve was met. I think it was something astronomical for a reserve. But Ferrari F40. Rare. And I mean, it's like brand new. You're like, did they make these? No. It looks brand new. It's, in fact, 30 years old plus, right? I mean, it's immaculate condition. All right, that's an F40. You definitely appreciate that if you're a car guy. Another version. I was just starstruck at that. Here we go. 488 Ferrari. Check that out. All carbon. Figo is there. What the hell that is? All right. Any guesses on this one? Ferrari, you guessed it. If you can get this model, the only hint you're getting is the wheels and the headlights. You could get it if you're a real Ferrari buff. It's the F430. Good job. Right? Or you can see it right there. Right on the dash. They stitch it on the dash in case you forget what car you bought. Oh, look at the gate, right? Very rare to get these gated. I mean, what the hell's gated? Well, if you're a car guy, you got it, right? I throw out car terms. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you've already clicked off, right? F430 also has the kind of signature side mirror pillars, right? Not many Ferraris have that. I think the old Testarossa is kind of that nod to the Testarossa. Look at the red stitching. I mean, super, super sharp here. These are probably one of the best values in Ferraris. You can get like a pretty good shape one, low miles for under 150K. I know that's still a lot, but for a supercar Ferrari, not very much, really. I think I've seen some even like 130s. Pretty nutty. Gated though, that's probably more towards 170. These are really rare and sought after to get them manual. There we go. And for the last one, there's just the same car, F430. But look at the engine, just amazing. I think probably the best looking car for, used for 150K, thereabouts. I don't think anything under 150K looks better than this, right? I'd be shocked. Maybe like you can get like a Skyline, but it's not supercar, right? I mean, for supercar status, for 140, 50K, tough to beat, right? Still looks good. Almost 20 years old. Still looks great. All right. A lot of people. There's Maserati just making an appearance. I think there's some epic cars here. There was Koenigsegg, couple Koenigsegg's here, like one of 2 in the world. Full carbon. I got that picture somewhere. And what else was there? A Pagani Huayra, Pagani Zonda. Amazing show, right? I still remember it, obviously. 8 years ago now. So my fruition yesterday was accurate. That 1-year-old little baby, if you watched to the end, I said he was 9. I didn't know if the math checked out. I thought this was later. 2015, 8 years ago. He was 1. That's 9. It's perfect. I got it. This guy's got some snakeskin cowboy boots on, it looks like. Golf course. Anytime you see a car show on a golf course, you got to go. Right? That's the hint. Are there going to be good cars there? Chase said, is it on a golf course? No golf course? No supercars or hypercars. What's the difference between supercar and hypercar? In my book, it's the $1 million price tag. Over $1 million, hypercar. Under $1 million, supercar. But you got to be like over 100K to even qualify for supercar. My book. Doesn't mean you are a supercar, but you're definitely not if you're under 100K. I'll go with that. Or you start to crack that book if you got the horsepower to beat one of these, right? I don't know, maybe. What do you think? It's debatable. If you have like 800 horsepower Supra, I mean, I feel like you kind of qualify for maybe a hybrid supercar. We'll go with that. All right, I'll end it there. Let me know what you want to see more of, less of. Yeah, I got nothing. It's hot in this room.